All right, all right. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 101 of the Behind the Back podcast. We're your host. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jet Rets. Ben, we had an epic part 1. I felt pretty good about that. How about you?
Yeah, man, I'm ready for the season to start, to be honest. But this is gonna be a fun rest of the NFC picture, and we're also gonna talk about our playoff picks.
That's right. So let's get right into it. We don't have much time to waste. And again, we're recording on August 27th. This is Wednesday. This part is coming out on Friday for those hearing, and we are going to finish off our predictions here. So let's start with the less fun division, the NFC South. And I will kick us off here. We're going to go. I wanted to start with, let's see, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going 11-6, the Atlanta Falcons in second at 10-7. And I had the Carolina Panthers at 5-12 and the New Orleans Saints at 3-14. What about you?
3-14.
They were a casualty. We'll talk.
So we're actually farthest apart on the Falcons. I'll tell you that. But to start at the top, I got the Buccaneers at 11-6. I got the Falcons at 6-11, and I'll kind of explain why. Yeah, they were low key a casualty, and I just don't believe in them. But Panthers at 5-12 and the Saints at 5-12. So let's start with the Falcons because I feel like we have the biggest discrepancy here. So
do you just not believe in Michael Penix?
100%. I want to see more. I really like Michael Penix. I do. I think he will be a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be elite. I could be entirely wrong on that. But initial thoughts are that he's still very much so developing. And while I like what he did, what we saw from him last season in a lot of those spurts, there's still a lot of growing for him to do. You know, they've got Bijan Robinson. You know, after they switched to Michael Penix last year, you saw a lot of like the high points, and it was like, this is the future. Like, this is cool. But you also saw some of the low points where it looked like you had a rookie in there. You know, offensively, they were pretty mid for the majority of the season. Defensively, you can say the same thing. Bringing in Leonard Floyd, I don't know how much that really moves the needle. They've got good pieces. Their schedule isn't the worst, so it's opportunistic for them. But, you know, especially like week 1, the Falcons play the Bucs. And, you know, you kind of need that win early on. And injuries kind of being questioned right now on the Falcons end where they could be missing like Tristan Wirf. Right. So if that's the case, you need that win. If you're not starting out with a win there, that's going to be troublesome.
Yeah, and I think for the Falcons, it's going to be it is a lot of projection. I think that a lot of people believe in Penix only because, and I think it's, you know, just logically, it's like he has one of the better skill position groups in the NFL. And I think that like that helps. And I think that being able to throw to Drake London, you have Darnell Mooney, who's a consistent second guy. Ray McLeod's still there. You got Kyle Pitts, and who knows what he's going to be. People have been trying to unlock him since he's been in the league. We'll see if Penix can do that. But I also believe in Bijan Robinson. Now, they took a hit by losing Caleb McGarry, their right tackle, for a season-ending injury. Now, why it's more important for the right tackle is Michael Penix is left-handed, so it is his blind side that is now out for the season. So this isn't like your normal quarterback situation where it's your left tackle. So that I think that does matter. I mean, if we're having that conversation about, you know, Rashawn Slater and Justin Herbert, I think it's important. Caleb McGarry isn't the same level as Rashawn Slater, but he is a quality player, and you're downgrading already. So I think that doesn't make things easier. But I believe in Bijan Robinson. Raheem Morris has a good defensive system. And I also like what they added on that defensive front with Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. I think those two guys, I was super high on Jalen Walker going into the draft. James Pierce Jr., I was hearing a lot of things about his attitude, but he's kind of been shaking all those off and making huge plays. He's been darn near unblockable in the preseason. So I think there's some actual juice for James Pierce Jr. So I think if that Atlanta front, I know they lost Calais Campbell to the Cardinals and stuff like that, but he was already aging. I think like this new wave of the Atlanta D-line, plus you still got AJ Terrell, you still got potential in the backfield, in the back seven here. Like they have pieces. So I think when you play 4 games against the Saints and the Panthers, I think that helps too. And I think they'll be able to benefit from that. And I do think they can steal a game from the Buccaneers, but I do think the Buccaneers win the division. But yeah, the Falcons, it is projection. They can totally hit 7-10, but I see them at 10-7 this year.
Yeah, and where I have them is at their floor. I have their floor set at about 6-11, which is where I have them. And ceiling wise, I don't see anything past 9 wins. I think 9 wins is where I would cap it. Again, I can be totally wrong. I haven't been following this Falcons team super close, but I do like a lot of the pieces they have and a lot of guys you talked about. And I think they had a generally positive offseason with a lot of, interesting vibes at times, but overall good vibes. And that's going to be something key to carry over into the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about some of these bottom feeders real quick. Real quick, because I don't think there's much time. Let's start with the Saints. We don't need to spend much time with them. I'm very happy for Kellen Moore for getting his first head coaching gig. They have some veteran players, but they also have players living off of their entire careers there, like Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis, who are just lifelong Saints. And they added Justin Reed, Julian Blackmon. Cool, little safety room. Love that. They're relying on Kool-Aid McKinstry, and that's pretty much it on their cornerback depth. So I'm a little, there.
They got Tyler Shook.
Yeah, but they're starting Spencer Rattler. So it's like, and I'm actually okay with that. I think Spencer's the better of the two. Because the Saints are also in a spot where, like, hey, if we suck this year, we're getting the, first, second, third overall pick. They're in the Cleveland situation where they don't have to roll with Shuck just because they spent a second round pick on him. Like, might have been a waste of draft assets, sure. But I mean, Kellen Moore, first year drafting, take his shot on a guy. Maybe his scouting can get updated next year. But maybe the option is Arch Manning. It might be a little easier, right? So I think that, this is kind of an effort year for the Saints. So not too much for them.
Yeah, it's a throwaway year. It's pretty much a dumpster fire. I hope that Kellen Moore doesn't get blamed for a lot of what's going on.
I think he'll have a leash. I think this is an understanding year, like a wink, wink.
And I think that's probably best for him, honestly, because if he didn't have a leash and they had a bad year, you could see him already entering the hot seat, and it's not even his fault. So
no pressure on the Saints.
So and that's kind of an element of surprise as well, where it's like nobody thinks the Saints are going to be good this year. Can they shock some people? We'll see. I have their floor at 3-14, which is where you had them ending. I think their ceiling caps at 6-11. Even that seems high. So I have them set at 5 wins, and I'm feeling pretty confident about it.
Yeah, and for the Panthers, I have them 5-12. This team has variance, but they did just trade Adam Thielen to the Vikings. But I want to talk about what that means more for the Vikings than what that means for the Panthers. I think the Panthers have, they have Leggett, and they also have T. Mac or Teteroa McMillan, because he doesn't like being called Ted. So I will respect that. But they also are super high on Jimmy Horn Jr., who's a nepo baby. His dad also played for the Panthers, and was an excellent receiver. Or maybe he played for the Rams, one of those two teams. But either way, but I wonder with them getting rid of Thielen, it was probably a money thing. He did ask for more money. So, Bryce Young played really well to finish the year last year. And so there is an element of maybe him and Canales for figuring things out. Their defense is suspect, and they are just a team devoid of talent. But they are getting there. They have good young building blocks. They're going to need quite a bit more to get better.
Yeah, I mean, they spent a ton of money this offseason. So the effort is there in terms of wanting to build. They retained a lot of their guys who they feel highly on, and on top of that, rebuilt the defense in a lot of ways. I think their best thing that they did was drafting Teteroa McMillan. I think that was a big W. It gives, Bryce another option and another weapon to use. I like the stretch that I saw from Bryce at the end of last year. I think a lot of the early struggles just had to do with not being able to find a rhythm, and then kind of the, effect of just being, put up on a shelf for a few weeks and essentially completely out of the picture, and then being thrown back into it again. So once he kind of found a groove, you felt good about Bryce as a quarterback and kind of leading that offense. So can he take a leap? Is it a step? Does he regress? I doubt he regresses, but how much of him does he get better this year? And that's kind of the question around their offense this one. But I think it's going to be a tough year for them. I have them set at their floor, which is 5-12, and their ceiling is 8-9.
Yeah, if everything goes well, I could see them winning 7 or 8 games. They'll be frisky. So the Bucs, they're a weird thorn in the Eagles' side, but there have been in this division, they have been the consistent winner. And I think that it's just hard to bet on what they have when they didn't really, lose much. Obviously, the worst injury is going to suck for the first four. He isn't officially on PUP yet, but we'll get that designation coming up on Sunday here on how long they plan on keeping him out. But even him missing any time is going to be, not that great. But they have weapons. They're still waiting on Godwin, and I know Jalen McMillan is going to be out for some time, but they drafted smart, and they got Emeka Ibuka, who they're really excited about, and they're really excited about their 7th-round pick, Tez Johnson, who was flashing in preseason as a speed demon too. So you have that with Mike Evans. You still have Kate Otten. You still have Rashad White, Bucky Irving. Like, they have the foundation. And Baker, who has just been playing the best ball of his career. Now, his offensive coordinator, Liam Cohn, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars now. Does that make a difference? We'll see how much they switch up. I mean, he threw over 40 touchdowns and had over 4,000 yards. Like, that's a great potential. He is a dark horse MVP if he keeps rolling the way he does. He is a little turnover prone, but he is kind of what makes that offense go. The defense has pieces. It always has good players, Vita Vea, Yaya Diaby, Levante David. And you got Antoine Winfield when he's healthy, but that's the issue. He's never healthy either. So it's like they have bones on this team, and Todd Bowles is an excellent coach. So in this division where they get to play the Panthers and the Saints, and then they will probably beat the Falcons, I just think that they are the most reliable team in this division. And I think they're a sneaky pick for some people, but I also think that that take is kind of backed off a little bit with the emergence of other teams. But so the Bucs I have at 11-6. I think their floor is probably 10-7. I still think they win this division no matter what. They win this division every year, even if they win 9 games somehow. So they always find a way to win. And I bank on Baker, even if the receivers deal with health, they now have depth. So I'm excited to see how that works for them.
Egbuka was a great pick for them because, when you look around their team, especially at the wide receiver and offensively, I mean, with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans getting older and now injury prone, like, to have that depth and I mean, you could say arguably, I believe it's 100% true that he's the most NFL ready wide receiver to come out of the draft. It made sense for the timeline that this team is on. This team is ready to compete. They feel as though they're, a step away maybe from competing for a Super Bowl. And in a lot of ways, I can agree with that. In some ways, I can disagree. But overall, it was a good offseason for them. The thing I'm looking at, is their schedule. It's not the best. It's not the worst. They play the Eagles, the Niners, the Lions, the Bills, the Texans. They go to Seattle, to Lumen Field. But a lot of this depends on the first 4 games of the season. And obviously the loss of Tristan Wirfs, who is injured right now, they see the Falcons in that stretch. So we'll kind of see how this shakes out. I agree with the floor being, you said 10-7, right? Yeah. So I agree with the floor. I actually have their ceiling set around 12. Because I can see this team just kind of progressing off of what, they've been building now for the last few years. I love Baker Mayfield. He's been one of my favorite players to watch since getting into the league. I loved him in college as well as a Sooner. So, I'm always going to be high on him. As far as a dark horse MVP candidate, I absolutely back that. I think he's definitely the style of quarterback that a lot of teams are looking for right now. And, if he could somehow get better, I think we've probably seen top end Baker, but if he somehow gets a little bit better, I think he would be in the conversation for MVP. And I think that would definitely get them at their ceiling of 12-5.
Absolutely. And that would be such a cool career story for Baker to, from what he went through in Cleveland to what he became now. We both have the Bucs here. So let's move on to the NFC North. They probably, arguably, the best division in the NFL this year, just based off of the hype and everything like that. So I'll let you go because I went last time. So what are your 4 and their records?
All right, so I got the Lions at 11-6. I got the Packers at 10-7. I got the Vikings at 10-7, and the Bears at 9-8. So this is a.
Wait a second. You got the Vikings at 10-7? What's with you and these 10-7 teams, bro?
Look, man, I feel like 10-7 is a middle tier ground right now.
You think JJ is going to be that good?
It's not necessarily about JJ. Yes, actually, though. I do think JJ is going to be good. We can start with the Vikings. Yeah. So obviously finished 14-3 last year, but you can't really compare any of what happened last year to this year because they're a new team. Last year they were the top 10 offense. I think that they have an opportunity to be still top 10. Obviously, you still have Justin Jefferson, who is going to always wreak havoc for you and for any defenses. They were great in run defense, but terrible in pass defense. You obviously don't have Sam Darnold anymore. You're looking at JJ McCarthy. Can JJ step in and be, better than Sam Darnold? I think he could, because I don't think, like I said, I like Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold is the elite quarterback that people were calling him last year. I think a lot of it was benefiting off of the system. And I think that's something that JJ McCarthy could have going for him as well.
So you think, I guess because Darnold had 43 touchdown passes and 4,300 yards, do you think that level of production this year for JJ is possible for a guy who limited snaps, missed all of his rookie season, and was like what everyone makes fun of Jalen Hurts for in college? It was a run first guy, didn't hardly throw the ball.
I like JJ.
I think JJ. It's okay to like him.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I think I really do think JJ's got an opportunity. I don't know statistically if he'd be able to pass what he was able to do last year, but again, like I said, like Darnold really benefited from that system last year, and he benefited from an easy schedule. So those stats are a little inflated in a lot of ways, and I'm going to say that if people are going to say that about Jalen and Purdy, I'm absolutely going to say that about other quarterbacks around the NFL. So I feel like that's a major factor. And looking at their schedule for this season, like at home, they get the Bengals, they get the Steelers, they get you guys, they get the Ravens and the Commanders. So that's not easy.
That's a tough schedule.
That's not easy. Away, they see the Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Cowboys. So, defensively is where they're going to need to really take like the next step. Because I think offensively they'll be able to hang. I really do. Especially if you can get JJ feeling comfortable early. Not necessarily in the game. I'm talking about early in the season. That's going to benefit him and the offense.
Yeah. No. I think listen, I think the pieces are all there. I think there's very few situations when you have the best receiver in the league, it's an easy spot to be in. I do question, Jetta's health. Jordan Addison's going to be missing the first 3 games. That's small. That's not, Jordan Addison's
they've won without him too.
And they also just traded for Adam Thielen. We had talked about that for the Carolina portion of it, but Adam Thielen coming back here, that's a vibes move. Like that's a good move for them. He's a veteran wide receiver. He helped Bryce last year and he knows the system. So I do think that isn't nothing. And not to mention they added your boy, what's his name? The running back, Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
They added Jordan Mason into Aaron Jones to this run game. So I think there is going to be an element of like where Sam Darnold was gripping and ripping it. I think there's going to be more run game this time. And they have a good offensive line. They have a good defense. Their defensive front, they tried to revamp it a little bit. They added Javon Hargrave. I'm trying to think. They added another quality pass rusher. I forget. They kind of revamped this D-line. And they still run all of Brian Flores' crazy 3 safety looks. It's going to be interesting to see just kind of like what this Vikings defense looks like. I think there's just 14-3 was the absolute peak that they could have went last year. And when you're playing your own division, which is all improved this year, and you also play the NFC East, that's just tough. Like you're getting teams. I just think that like JJ is going to be put in a tough spot against really good teams, against really good defenses who know how to solve quarterbacks with limited experience. And I think that I didn't even say my records. I had Detroit at 12-5, Chicago 11-6, Green Bay at 10-7, and then Minnesota was a casualty. So this is the absolute floor, and I think this is even lower than I had them at 4-13.
Whoa.
That's not what's going to happen. They're going to be, I think they're 6-11 team this year. This is just the casualty of the exercise. This is not, I do not believe they're 4-13. I think they're 6-11.
Even 6-11 for me is their floor right now. I have them set around their ceiling. I played with 11-6, but ultimately, like I have them, I think, set at 10-7, and that being their ceiling. But look, I mean, it is hard to look at this team and the schedule that they're faced with and the rookie quarterback being thrown into this all and say that, they're going to be better than they were last year. But again, a lot of what I saw last year, you and I talked about it when they went into the playoffs last year. We didn't believe in them, and they were 14-3.
They were a preferred matchup.
They were popping off, and it was like, I don't know, we don't really feel that great about them, and ultimately we were right about it. So I think a lot of it's just benefiting off of kind of system, and that's why I'm saying, like, I think JJ is an upgrade from Darnold. I think he will be an upgrade from Darnold. It's a question of how quickly. And if you're able to get Sam Darnold feeling as comfortable as he was looking, slinging that thing, getting $100 million this year based off how he played last year, I have every reason to believe that JJ would be able to feel comfortable and be able to run this offense well enough.
That's fair. That's a fair take. I think JJ has that potential, and he is young. He's incredibly young. So it's like the Vikings aren't going to give up on him anytime soon. I think there's a element of that for sure. So I do think that, like, the Vikings, they're an interesting team. I need to see it. For me, with the inconsistencies that they have, can their guys stay healthy? I'm a little worried about that too. So it's just like I need to see it from them. And every year they're a great regular season team. So I wouldn't be surprised either if they like actually perform well in the regular season too. So I guess we'll see. The Packers, we both had them at 10-7, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're your third place team?
They're my second place team. And solely because they're winning the tiebreaker over the Vikings. Because I also had the Vikings at 10-7. I have a lot of teams ending 10-7.
And it felt that way this year.
I'm
right?
just calling it kind of the middle tier. Yeah. Like, crazy to say that 10-7 is a middle tier, but that's kind of how this season feels to be shaping out. Look, the Packers really good offensively last year against some easy teams, but struggled at times against good defenses. They're decent defensively. Last year finishing 11-6, losing to the Eagles again in the wild card, second time that last season. They bring in Aaron Banks for the O-line, draft a wide receiver in the first round for the first time since 2002 in Matthew Golden. They bolstered the O-line more through the draft. Offense will probably be better than it was last year. The part for me that I can't put them past 10 wins is their tough schedule. They see the Lions, they see the Commanders, they see the Bengals, you guys, the Vikings, which I have being a good game, at least one of those. The Bears, the Ravens, and then away games, you got Cowboys, Steelers, Broncos, Lions. So it's not an easy schedule, and that to me is why I can't see this team finishing above 11 wins. I think that's going to be their ceiling for me is 11. I think floor-wise, I could see them going as far down as 8 because I still don't believe in Jordan Love. I really don't. I will die on that hill. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, a good enough quarterback to get you into the playoffs. Past that, I prove it.
Yeah, I think last year was an element of the regression came in the form of injury, that he played hurt all year long. Like, he got hurt week 1, and he wasn't even really healthy going into week 1, and they forced it. I will commend his toughness for trying to play through injury multiple times. They won games with Malik Willis, which was, a testament to LaFleur and his ability to keep the team afloat. They were 11-6. They were 0-6 in their division last year. So all 6 of their losses came against teams that they have to face twice a year. They were contested games. It wasn't like they were getting blown out. So I think there's an element of like, there could be a little bit of a swing in that regression where they won't go 0-6. Maybe if the worst, it could be 2-4, and that might be the difference for them in some of these games. But yes, you're right. The schedule gets a little bit tougher for them. The Eagles are going to come at them with a red hot vengeance because of the whole tush push nonsense. So I think that's what's happened over the summer. But I think that Matthew Golden's going to be awesome for them. But it's not just Jordan Love and his injury concerns. It's his receivers' injury concerns too. All those guys, his main rotation spent time hurt, and all 3 of them got hurt in the Eagles game, and he was throwing to nobody. Josh Jacobs stayed healthy, played awesome. He was a top 3 running back last year because of how long and how well he played, and he was doing a really good job shouldering that load. He kept them in that playoff game against the Eagles.
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, and we'll see. And I believe that he'll be able to sustain that again. I think there's going to be an element of balance. I don't know how healthy Jordan Love is. I don't even think he's healthy yet, and that is scary to me. But I think that they're a good team, and they've kind of been a good team, but they don't have any game changing pieces yet. And maybe Burden changes into that. Josh Jacobs he's the best thing you got on offense. That's fine. Rashawn Gary, same thing on defense. Like, fine. Cool. Xavier McKinney, cool. Like, he had a breakout year. That's fine, though. So it's like good players there. But everyone's talking about how the Packers are like one of the teams to look out for a Micah Parsons trade. Like, they have the package for it. Yeah. So it's like, sure. Like, cool. You can go get Micah if Jerry wants that eventually. We'll see. But until they get like just like a oh my gosh star, they're just going to be a good team. And 10-7, I just think is going to be the realm of where they're going to be. They'll be at 10-7, 9-8 for me. I think their division's going to get better. Well, we'll talk about the Lions, but I think their division's still going to be tough, and they're just they need to prove it to me too. I was totally on the Jordan Love hype train when coming off of his good year when they got in the playoffs and they beat the Cowboys and took the Niners to the end. I just think that like he hasn't been himself. He hasn't been his full healthy self. And if we're not getting that, I don't know what to expect from this team.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry. Let's talk about the Bears. I had them 9-8. You had them take the floor 11-6.
Yeah. So the floor for me, I think, is 9-8. I think 11-6. I think if everything went their way this year, they could be a 12-win.
Wow.
I listen. I don't like Ben Johnson. I don't like his opinion of the tush push. Whatever. Sure. Whatever. In terms of his ability, what I do like, I like all the reports that he's a hard ass. I like all the reports that he's establishing his own culture there in Chicago. I think that the way that Chicago performed, the fact that they won 7 games last year, given all the nonsense they went through with their coaching staff and all the crap that Caleb had to go through and deal with, and he still performed admirably and had decent numbers. I think if Jaden Daniels didn't exist, I think we were talking about Caleb's year as a very solid year for the number 1 overall pick, not being compared to this all-time historic season versus the number 2 overall pick who got picked after him. His weapons are better. He still has DJ Moore, Romandunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland to go with Cole Kmet. Their running back room didn't get better. Like, you can roll with DeAndre Swift, sure, but they upgraded their offensive line marginally. I don't know how. We'll see. That's going to be a Caleb issue. That's going to be a Ben Johnson. Can he break those Caleb habits of having the system, get the ball out early, rely on the run game, get play action, attack the middle of the field? We saw the flashes in the preseason. And I think that Ben Johnson is always going to want and demand more, and Caleb demands more of himself too. He's a cornball. I think Caleb Williams is a little corny, but I buy the talent that they have. I think offensively that's a good group of guys. And I think that if they're healthy, that's as good as an offensive roster as there is in the entire NFC. And I think defensively they're underrated. And I think that they have Montez Sweat, they have Jalen Johnson, they have Quan Brisker, they have a couple other guys there that they have some juice. And TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds for their linebacker, they have reliable defensive play. So I think if they get that and this offense takes a step, I think after that Hail Mary last year, their vibes and their whole season fell apart. I just think that was it for them. They all the vibes that led to that Hail Mary, the guy talking on the side, whatever. So I think that if there's going to be a team that has the most potential for growth and that everyone believes could take a leap compared to what they were last year, I think it's the Bears. And I think because of that, expectations are going to be on the Bears. I think they're going to be one of the most watched teams in the NFL in terms of Caleb's going to be under a microscope. Ben Johnson's going to be under a microscope. Those games against the Detroit Lions are going to be must-watch TV. So I'm very excited to see. But I'm buying it. I think the Bears have a good chance this year to be a 11-win team.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of stuck at their schedule. And I've made the argument for the other side already, with some of these guys or some of these teams, but they've got a tough schedule. From a home game perspective, they see the Steelers, which is going to be interesting. The away games are the ones that stand out to me. They go to Washington against the Commanders. They go to Detroit. They go to Baltimore. They go to the Bengals, and they see the Niners as well. They need a healthy O-line and a great run game for their success to really kind of unfurl this season. For me, it's kind of like a Cardinals thing. Until you do it, I'm not going to have faith in you. Yeah. And while I liked what I saw from Chicago to start last year, after that Hail Mary and like you said, the vibes going down, that was not a serious football team. Oh, for sure. And to me, that's the part where I'm like, I can't put this team above like a ceiling of 10 wins and feel like, yeah, I feel like they're, a dominant team. I feel like they're on the cusp of being an elite team. I need to see more out of Caleb. Like while he had one good drive in the offseason or in the preseason, like a majority of his training camp was questionable. And you saw a lot of times him struggling with reads, struggling with, simple drill tasks. And, it's looking at how they were last year after that collapse, like 31st in passing offense, 28th in points per game, 25th in rushing offense. You think they would take, like, for me, it's like, do you think they would take that much of a leap to, based on everything that happened this offseason and based on how everything ended last year from a vibes perspective, you think that it's possible for them to go all the way up as far as like 11 wins?
Yeah, and the only reason I think is because I think it is not talked about enough just how bad his previous coaching regime was. And it wasn't an offensive first guy. Matt Nagy is a defensive coach. And I think that not only do you bring Ben Johnson, it was the same thing we saw with Dan Quinn and the Commanders. It's a culture shift. It's a coaching shift. That new voice in the locker room with a guy who's this confident, who has a culture, who has a plan, I think may actually get a message that these guys buy into. Those guys gave up on Matt Nagy last year. They didn't believe in him. And Caleb was struggling with Caleb was the one organizing meetings within his own building. Like, he had to assume this level of leadership. They were a horribly toxic team last year, and they still went 7-10. So it's like, yes, they had all this really bad stuff and it didn't look good. And yes, this offseason, the narratives are still hanging around. It's the Bears. The Bears have been a historically just not great team. Like, they're perpetually bad. It's like the Kings, or the Jets. Like, you've been bad for a long time, so it's just hard to expect anything else until it's proven. And I understand that, and I totally get it. And I think this might be the year that they surprise some people. They don't surprise people that Caleb Williams is the number one pick, but I don't think there is kind of like a overlooked feeling with the Bears. So I think that, because of that, I think they want to see it happen first, and I think they will. I think teams are going to get it firsthand.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the last team in Detroit. I've got them going 11-6. Look, last year, regular season, amazing. They were awesome in the regular season. Choked in the very first playoff game. So, this was one of the best football or offenses in football last year. Defensively, they were great outside of pass defense, where they were 30th. That was something they knew they had to tighten up this offseason, and they attempted to address that. They won the division, so they get a tough schedule. That tough schedule is not favorable in any way, shape, or form. They see the Ravens, they see the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Rams. They have new coordinators all around. Like, it's I don't know how much I'm bought into this Detroit team, and I want to be, because it was a fun story, 2 years ago when we saw them really emerge and start to go on their run. But it's similar to it's like a baby version of the Ravens. It's like, you could be as great as you want in the regular season, but when it hits the playoffs, can we even rely on you guys to be the same football team that we've seen in the past 17 games? And that's where I'm stuck at. So I have them, again, winning their division at 11-6. I have their ceiling at 12-5, but the ceiling, you can say all you want about their regular season. For me, this is a playoff team that I need to see more out of at this point. Their floor for me is like an 8-9 this year.
Yeah, I guess if everything bottoms out on them, and with their division, it's totally possible that could be the floor. And that's if injuries ravish them again. Last year, that was the big deal. They had all these injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and they still went 15-2. And I understand Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. I think one thing with the coordinators that always gets talked about with certain teams, but not others, is Ben Johnson was a huge part of that scheme, but I wonder how much Dan Campbell truly believes that narrative, right? I think there's an aspect of how much he trusts Goff, how much the team trusted Goff, paying him that much money, knowing that Ben Johnson was going to eventually leave. So they do believe enough in Goff. And listen, it's hard to the Eagles had a historic collapse in 2023, but when you have a team that has A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, you had a good team around you, you have good players, you're going to win a lot of games and it's going to make up for like a lot of the deficiencies you have. I think Detroit has proven, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and their offensive line has taken a step back due to Frank Ragnow retiring unexpectedly, and I believe there was an injury as well. So you still have Penei Sewell, and you have a couple question marks in the interior, sure, but you still have Amon-Ra, you still have Sam Laporta, you still have that running back duo in Jameer Gibbs and Montgomery. You want to see more out of Jameson Williams. Like, all the pieces are there for their offense to just continue to kind of keep going and maybe just make this a Jared Goff offense. Now, like we talked about, will that help them in the playoffs? Who knows? Will Aiden Hutchinson's return, to full strength, will that help him? He was dominating early last year. Now, they added DJ Reed, like you said, in the cornerback room. Can Terrion Arnold take that next step? I was high on him last year. It's one of those things that, like, they have pieces. Can they stay healthy? They got ravaged last year. There's no guarantee that, like, all these guys come back. Aleem McNeil, their big defensive tackle, he's on the PUP list, so he's going to be out the first 4 weeks. So it's already not going great for some of the pieces that they want to have that make this juggernaut a juggernaut. I have them going 12-5. I think it's fair. Like, they went 15-2, so a regression of like 12-5 sounds right. Like, they can compete with any team. They've beaten every team. Like, I think the Commanders playoff game, that's just coin flip game. So it could have that 3 interception game could have totally happened to Daniels. Like, it could have. I just think but I will admit, they have now gotten there enough times to where you do question, can you win with Jared Goff and as your quarterback with this team as it's constructed. Now, when you lose your coordinators, you don't have the same answers anymore. So let's see. There is going to be an element of, like, there might be a rough start to, like, how this team looks. And so that is a big question mark. But I trust Dan Campbell as a leader of men to keep the vibes as blunt and as honest as possible, while also just saying, like, I still believe in you guys. And I think that element, but, we'll see how long that message lasts. Like, winning cures all. So how will they handle adversity if they do have to go through some of these bumps this year when they don't have the same answers that they did last year? So I am curious on Detroit. They do have a lot of variety, but I still think they've earned the right to be the winner of this division.
I agree. So should we talk some playoffs?
Yeah. So let's get into it. So I want to do mine real quick. I'm going to rapid fire because I think you have a little bit more of a dynamic playoff seeding bracket story narrative than I do. So real quick, we're gonna reel them off. I want to start in the AFC. So just to reiterate my seeds, I had the Ravens at 1, Buffalo Bills at 2, Kansas City Chiefs at 3, Texans at 4, Patriots at 5, the Denver Broncos at 6, the Bengals at 7th. So we'll start with the wild card matchups. We'll start with the 2 versus 7, the Bills versus the Bengals. I had the Bills winning this matchup. 3 versus 6, the Chiefs versus the Broncos. I had the Chiefs winning that matchup. 4 versus 5, Texans versus Patriots. I had the Patriots winning that matchup. Had to get an upset in there. So next round for the divisional round for the AFC, it's the Ravens at Patriots at Ravens. I had the Ravens winning. Chiefs at Bills. I had the Bills winning. I had the Chiefs losing in the divisional round. Conference championship, Bills versus Ravens. Who's gonna finally get their shot at the Super Bowl? I think Lamar Jackson gets it first. I think the Ravens will be in the Super Bowl for the AFC. NFC, let's go over the seeds. Eagles, 1st seed. Niners, 2nd seed. Lions, 3rd seed. Bucks, 4th seed. Bears, 5th seed. Packers, 6th seed. And the Falcons sneak in as the 7th seed. I had 3 teams in the NFC North this year, but I also had 3 different teams in the playoffs in the NFC, 2 in the AFC. So I kind of wanted to keep a little bit of variety there. So 2 versus 7, Niners, Falcons. The Falcons lose to the Niners.
I was going to say.
And then Green Bay at Detroit. I had Green Bay upsetting Detroit and Green Bay moving on to the next round.
Another first round exit.
Yes, for the Detroit Lions. Yes, it would be heartbreaking. But I think that if Green Bay gets there, I think they're not gonna lose in the first round. The Bucks at Bears 4v5. So it's Bears at Bucks. I have the Bears winning that one and moving on. So divisional round, Packers at Eagles. Eagles are gonna curb stomp them. Bears at San Francisco. I have the San Francisco 49ers moving on to create the matchup that we have been hoping and praying for fairly for the past few years since we started this freaking podcast.
Of course.
Start to finish, both of our quarterbacks will play. No injuries. It's going to be, mano y mano. It's going to be good. And obviously, I have the Eagles winning and advancing to the Super Bowl. Woo! It's going to be a hotly contested game. Brock Purdy throws a game-losing pick six. It'll be great. To Quentin Cooper, it'll be great. Eagles and Ravens, I obviously have the Eagles. But I think, the narrative is, for me, for the AFC, is that I have Lamar over Josh. Last year, I picked Josh to move on. And the year before that, I picked Lamar. So I think I'm just kind of going to go back and forth until one of these guys hits. So that is my playoff predictions this year.
This is interesting. All right, you're going to have a lot of fun listening to this. So starting in the AFC, again, my 1 through 7 seed, I have the Bills at number 1. I have the Ravens at number 2. I have Kansas City number 3. The Texans number 4. I have the Bengals number 5. The Steelers number 6. And the Broncos number 7. So the first matchup is going to be Broncos at Ravens. Ravens get that win. Steelers at Kansas City. Kansas City gets that win. Bengals at Texans. Bengals get the upset and the win.
Okay.
So moving on to the divisional, that sets up the divisional round. That'll be number 5 Bengals at the Bills, number 1. And then you got the number 3 Chiefs at the number 2 Ravens. The Bengals and the Bills. I've got the Bills winning and moving on. Okay. Now, this one's interesting. Chiefs and Ravens.
Did we do the same thing?
I think with the addition of Taylor Swift into the Travis Kelce family, I have a feeling that the reign is coming to an end. And I've got the Ravens beating the Kansas City Chiefs and moving on to the conference finals. So that sets up Ravens at Bills to go to the Super Bowl. We had the same matchup, but we don't have the same outcome. I have the Bills winning and moving on to the Super Bowl. So that sets up the AFC. NFC, here we go. Rehashing. We got the Commanders at number 1. Yeah. Commanders, number 1. You heard that. Number 2, Bucks. Number 3, Niners. Number 4, Green Bay Packers. Number 5, Eagles. Number 6, Vikings. Number 7, Lions. So first matchup, number 7, Lions at Bucks. Lions get that win. Shockingly. I have a feeling this is the year. All right, Vikings at Niners. I've got the Vikings losing that game to the 49ers. Eagles at Green Bay. I've got the Eagles winning that again. Sets up another heartbreak for the Packers in very similar fashion.
You want that so bad.
I do, dude. Moving on to the divisional round, I've got the Lions at Commanders, and I've got Eagles at Niners. Okay, so our matchup came a little sooner, right? I've got the Eagles winning. I don't think the Niners.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously,
you're not trolling.
I'm not trolling. I've got the Eagles winning. Look, the Eagles are a more seasoned and ready team right now than the 49ers. What I talk about, in the last episode with how this was a retooling year. This was a year where this team needs to kind of, they need to go through some ebbs and flows. Well, this is going to be one of their downs. They're going to lose to a more ready team in the Eagles.
I'm waiting for you to pull the...
There's no rug. There's no rug. You need to trust your boy.
That's crazy.
So Eagles take that win. And as far as the Lions and the Commanders, I've got the Commanders winning. Why? Because I'm setting up the NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the Commanders. Marcos, take a guess who I've got winning and moving on to the Super Bowl.
The Eagles, 35.
You are correct. The Eagles losing to the Commanders 35-24. I've got the Commanders and the Bills in the Super Bowl. And Marcos, Josh Allen gets a ring.
I'll take that. Jesus. Oh, my gosh. You know what? Excellent. That's an excellent playoff bracket. You know what? Shout out to you for being an objective.
Have to be real.
An objective creator of a playoff bracket. And, keeping it real. And I like that.
That was the goal here. Like, I genuinely can't come on this podcast and be like, the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl and they're going to win. Like, yeah, it's not realistic. The last 2 years, it kind of made sense because you had the roster. we talked about what this team looks like now. Like this isn't the Super Bowl roster, not yet. This is a retooling year and a building year. You can make the playoffs and still have good vibes, and that's 100% what I'm expecting from this team.
No, I love that. That was great. So you guys got our playoff predictions for the year. So for me, I have the Ravens and the Eagles. Ben has the Bills and the Commanders making it, and I have the Eagles winning, but obviously, who knows what happens. And then Ben has the Bills getting across. What a fun season this is going to be. So we'll see. So guys, let us know what you guys think about our predictions for the NFC and for the playoffs. Do you guys have a different matchup? Do you guys think our takes are terrible? Do you guys think one of these teams that, who do you side with here on some of these guys, Ben or me? Because we definitely had a couple of disagreements in here, and I think that was good. I'm glad we didn't agree on everything, but this is what the point of it's for. But now we got our deep dives next week, guys. We get to go back to just the nitty gritty. We talk about the pregame, what games are coming up. It's week 1, guys. Next Thursday is week 1. Like, we are a week away at the time of this recording for NFL football actually mattering. Banner night in Philadelphia, guys. Like, we're hyped. So we got through all the preseason nonsense. We got through all the offseason stuff. How are you feeling going into the season, Benny?
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for football. It's been a long offseason, but it's been real. I'm ready to watch football every week.
Heck yeah. And we thank you guys for sticking with us on this part 2 and on both parts of this series. We really appreciate you guys, joining us on year 3. Hopefully, we never know what's going to happen. We hope the audio came out a lot better for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed the experience that we provided here. And we hope that moving forward, we can keep this consistent and, put in some good content for y'all. So we're excited as we grow each and every week with you guys. So I think this is good. I think we'll cut it off right here. So this was episode 101, part 2 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. For all you guys watching up on YouTube, all of our social medias are up above. For all you audio listeners out there, the links to descriptions are down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, follow the show. Please let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with some of our teams that we have here. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Who do you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? We'd love to hear all about it. So with that being said, I am Marcos Conan. Beside me here, as always, is
Ben the Jet Rats.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you next week.
Peace.